Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 is a month and a half away from being shown for the first time. Apple will show iOS 27 at WWDC 2026 this year, which takes place on June 8, 2026. After the event, Apple should release iOS 27 Beta 1, then have betas throughout the summer and release it to the public typically in the middle of September, right around the next iPhone launch. So I wanted to share 10 features I would like to see. I think all of us could agree at this point that the main thing we need first is stability and refinement. iOS has been more and more buggy over the past years and not up to the level we have expected. iPhone OS was super stable and iOS was rock solid and always was the benchmark, but more and more people seem to be considering Android this time around due to more and more bugs, as they're just not very refined right now. The keyboard in particular used to be great, but many complain of mistypes. The good news is the keyboard is improving with the latest versions of iOS 26, and especially on newer devices. So this is an iPhone 17 Pro Max on iOS 26. And so it seems to be okay, but many people are experiencing severe lag, especially on older devices. And when you press and hold or just press on a letter here, sometimes it will press the wrong letter, even though you press the correct letter. So there does need to be some refinement here. The good news is Apple is finally slowing down and seems to be focusing on this very issue this year. This is according to all the different sources that typically let us know what's coming ahead of time. And yes, we've heard this before, and this is something we thought they'd do in the past, but we've had almost zero leaks about what to expect about iOS 27. So that makes me hopeful that they're going to actually refine it this year. So again, I would like to see more refinement in iOS 27 with animations. The animations in some of the previews of iOS 26 were great. The way things popped out, the way things animate, going into different parts of the OS, going into maybe your library and having the liquid glass animate all over seems to be great, but again, it needs to be more refined, especially on older devices. Apple seems to have abandoned a lot of those devices and not really refined it. So hopefully they get that right, get liquid glass right, and that leads me to another thing I would like to see: more liquid glass customization. I never thought Apple would give us the level of customization we've been seeing, but for example, if we go to the lock screen, if we customize the lock screen, we can now customize liquid glass on the lock screen. Why this is not throughout the OS and allowing us to customize the translucency is hard to say, but again, this is something I would love to see them bring since they're bringing more and more customization. We're able to change it again within the menus, so if we go in here, then we go back, swipe up, go into settings, and this time around, if we go in display, of course, we can change liquid glass here. Again, just add a slider here and allow us to adjust it, whether it's clear or tinted. That would be a great feature. Another thing I think they need to bring is a clipboard. This is something Apple brought along in macOS Tahoe for the first time, and it's something that we've seen sort of hints of where they pop up in the code from time to time, and I think it makes a lot of sense to see a clipboard. So maybe I copy text, go back into notes, copy here, then maybe select something, then copy. I should be able to save that if I want to, or not if I don't want to. That's something I think a lot of people would value and would like to see throughout the OS on iPad, iPhone, and Mac as well, where we already have it. Now going back to the keyboard, another thing many people would like to see, and I would like to see the option, again with more customization, is just a number row that's continuously there. If you started with iPhone, it's not really a concern, but if you're coming from other phones, you're used to having a number row at the top. Yes, you can load custom keyboards, but we really want the one from iOS just to sort of conform to how we use it. So if you want the option for a number row, like you can add with the Arabic keyboard, for example, so if we go into settings, so within the keyboard, you'll see that we can select Arabic and transliteration. If we have this selected and then we go back into notes, you can actually switch to it. And once you switch to it, you'll have the number key at the top or the number row. This is something, of course, they could add. Why not have the option for everyone? It makes sense for this type of keyboard, but many people would love to see it just on their daily keyboard to make things a little bit easier without an extra press. The next thing has to do with volume control. I've always really appreciated just one simple volume control, and that's because I started with iPhone. But if you've come from Android, you know that you have the option for multiple volumes for different things. This makes sense for specific things, so maybe you want to use your navigation without using CarPlay, and you want to have music a little bit quieter, navigation a little bit louder. You should be able to easily adjust that, and it's just not as easy. You basically have one set volume with the exception of a few settings. So if you go into your settings, and this time we go down to sounds and haptics, we can adjust ringtones and alerts here with a different volume slider that's independent of what we have here with the volume itself. So you do have that option, but it's not throughout the entire OS and it's not straightforward. So that's something I would like to see maybe refined with UI changes, maybe give the option or just leave it alone. But again, this is something that would be very helpful for specific volumes depending on how you use your phone. The same is true with music. Many people have wanted a feature for an equalizer in music for years. So we do have some nice changes in music. So within our music settings, for example, if we scroll down, we have things for song transitions, and under EQ, we have different options, but we don't have a separate EQ where we can adjust it to our own taste. This is something many people have wanted for years. You can change it to a lounge sound or off or whatever you prefer for the EQ of your phone and your music, but you don't have the option to set it yourself. And it makes sense just to add it in there. You have a bunch of different options that you've chosen, or at least Apple's chosen. I would love to see the option to just change it myself. The next thing I'd like to see added with iOS 27 is something we already have on iPad, and that's split view. With the iPhone Fold rumored to come out later this year, if they do add multitasking to that device, which would make an awful lot of sense, I would think you'd want to add it to your iPhone as well. We have picture-in-picture, so if we go into YouTube, for example, I'll press play on this video. If I swipe home, I can have it here at the top, swipe it off to the side, and that's very convenient when you're watching video, but it's still not the same thing as split view, where maybe I could have messages up here, a web browser down here, so I could check a couple different things at the same time. Many people have been asking this for years, and it makes the most sense to add it with iOS 27 if they're coming out with an iPhone Fold. If they only add it to the Fold, I know that would frustrate a lot of people, but maybe push people toward a Fold to have that option. But either way, it makes sense to finally add it. Also, I'd like to see an upgraded camera. And what I mean by that is they did make some changes to the camera. Whether you like them or not is really subjective. I tend to like the simplicity of it, but I would love to see a Pro mode. A Pro mode here would be very helpful, where we could go into Pro and then adjust everything ourselves. Whether that's photo or video, I would love to see a Pro mode here that would make it more like what we have with Final Cut Camera or maybe Blackmagic's camera. So you'll see when you're setting this up, the only way you can use some of these features is to use a Pro video app. For example, you want to use Genlock or 200mm lens support or Apple Log 2 or ProRes RAW. Of course, you can use some of those in the general camera app, so having something like this built directly into the main camera app would make a lot of sense, and we may see something like this. It's been long rumored that we would have a Pro camera app that's separate, but I would like to see it built in so people could learn as well. But we could see something like this as one of the founders of Halide, a very popular camera app, has recently joined Apple, so hopefully this is the reason why. Another thing I'd like to see Apple change is the Photos app. I think it's a bit of a mess, and it has been ever since Apple updated it in iOS 18. iOS 26 changed a few things, and you could mostly get this back to how iOS 17 was, as I did a separate video on that, and there's definitely more customization, but it's a bit confusing. Sometimes it just doesn't show you what you want to see, and many of us just want a general photo library that we can sort however we'd like, and just have everything appear the way we want. There are more sort options, but it's a bit confusing the way it's laid out. So many people would like to see this updated, and there's definitely some bugs in it as well. For example, if I go into this, go to share it, then leave the share sheet open, oftentimes when I leave the app, go back in, sometimes the app is completely frozen and I can't use the X to get out of this. I've seen this time and time again, and there's just some odd bugs throughout it. So it definitely needs some refinement, and I hope they update it again. One other thing I've been thinking about that I would love to see in iOS 27 has to do with battery and charging. One thing I really like about iPhone is it generally can handle it itself. If you just want to let it go, charge it every night, that's completely fine. That's how Apple designed it. But some people want more granular control of this. But the first thing I would like to see under battery is a better understanding of its daily usage, where we have different options. For example, if we go to view all battery usage, we've got basically 24 hours here. I want to see since last charged, similar to what electric cars can do. I want to know how much screen on time I had since the last charge to 100%. That's really all I want to know. I don't care how much time it took. I want to know when it's off the charger and how much screen on time I've had since then. Then I put it back on the charger, then let me see the option of full 24 hours or when last charged. So I think that would be super helpful to see, and I would love to see them add that. In addition to this, we did get some more power modes, such as adaptive power, for example, but one thing I would like to see is customization of low power mode. I've seen a lot of people use this thinking they'll get more and more battery life, but I think a lot of people don't realize it slows down your phone and disables a ton of features. It says here that iPhone will temporarily reduce some background activities, processing speed, display refresh rate so it brings it down to 60 Hz, and brightness, and limit certain features such as 5G, iCloud syncing, mail fetch, and more. I would love the option to customize some of these things, such as keep the processor fast, but maybe have mail fetch be limited, things like that, where you could customize it here instead of having to go into each individual app and do it that way. I've done many different videos on that, but having this customized would be super, super helpful. In addition to all of these modes, many people really would like to see scheduled charging. Now, that's not something I think I would typically use, but I've seen many people say that they would like charging not just to be limited, but also have a schedule option. So maybe you want to leave it plugged in, but you only want it to charge between certain hours and when it reaches a certain limit. So maybe have it charge between 20 and 80% and only charge at that percent and only charge during specific hours. So I think maybe Apple could enhance this in the future, whether that's with different options for clean energy charging based off of time charging and much more. So that's everything I want from iOS 27 so far this year. I don't think there's a whole lot more to refine here. We're getting very mature with overall phones and smartphones in general and the OS. I think we just need more refinement, stability, better battery life, and things like that. Let me know your number one feature you'd like to see with iOS 27 in the comments below. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.